Collective. Thank you for being here. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Before wasting any more time, let's tap right into it. Let's see, why is it that everyone is so triggered by the collective lately? Why is it that people are acting so weird? Why is it that people are so in their emotions about the collective lately? Oh, it's because they can't stop thinking about you and you don't want to associate with them. That's why people are so triggered by you. They just can't stop thinking about you. They just can't. You live rent free in their head. Yeah, these are people who see you don't want to associate with them. They are so triggered. These are people who may be taking from you. These are people who may have been too superficial with you. These may have been people who were more consuming on your energy. These may have been people who are siphoning your energy. These were people who may have been uh, wanting to get their way at by any means. These are people who may have crossed boundaries with you. Yeah, these are people who feel like they can't siphon from your energy anymore. Yeah, it's more like you are so protecting yourself lately, and you are very much uninterested. You are protecting yourself, period. Yeah, and you are so uninterested. Yeah, these people, they are so triggered by that. They are so even sending you a lot of divination abusing, witchcraft, spell work, evil eye. These are people who are so rooting for your downfall. Like literally, they are rooting for your downfall. These are people who are not feeling safe in your presence. I feel these are people who feel like you are threatening their power games. Yeah, let's see, why is it that people are so triggered by the collective lately? Why is it that people are so triggered by the collective? Why is it people are so in their emotions? By the collective, people be acting weird with the collective. Why is it? Yeah, these are people who feel like, oh my God, you took your power back, and it's triggering them. These are people who may have wanted you to be a follower. These are people who may have wanted you to bend for some reason. Yeah, these are people who may have wanted to put you in your place. Right now, these people are so triggered, yeah, because they can't make shit up anymore on you. They are so triggered because they are cloud hungry and there's nothing that they can say about you. Yeah, these are people who are more like created, whom have even went as far as creating fake accounts just to be in your business. Yeah, and they are so triggered. It's more like they are haunted and triggered, yet they still come into your space wanting to know more. Yeah, these are people who are more like lurking on your socials. These are people who are feeling way too rejected by you taking your power back. It's actually making these people feel like you no longer putting them on the pedestal, or it makes them feel like they are too small. you know they are, because these are people who wanted you to be below them at some way or another, in some way or another. But then these are people who feel like you've erased them. They can't stop thinking about you and making things up in their head. These are people who just can't stop making shit up about you in their head. They are busy making assumptions, creating story on you, and jumping to conclusions about you. Yeah, these are people who have a lot of uh, trust issues with themselves. They have a lot of trust issues with themselves. These are people who didn't want you to take your power back. Yeah, they didn't want you to take your power back, and they actually hate that you are this manifester, you are yourself, you are this creative, you are being seen, you are being celebrated, you are very much in control. They just can't stand that, and it's triggering them. It's making them be in their feelings, in their emotions. It's making them act weird. It's making them act weird. Let's see some more. Why is it that they are acting weird? You know, These are people who are acting weird because they are feeding off of your creativity. They may be saying that they are not watching you. I'm telling you, you are making an impact out there. You are inspiring even these people. They are so triggered because they didn't expect for you to be the one uplifting and empowering them. These are people who are telling messy stories about you. You know, these are people who just can't stop talking nonsense about you, but then they always come feed off of your energy, feed off of your creativity. You know, these are people who are so in their emotions about you. These are people who actually want to steal your joy. You know, these are people who may be wanting to compare you, I don't know to what, but either way, these are people who are more like feeling like they want to steal from your energy. They may be wanting to project their insecurities on you, you know, because they are feeding off of your creativity. They may be wanting to project on you, you know. These are people who are more like stuck. They're so obsessed with you. They just can't help it. They are way too obsessed with you. They can't help it. Still checking your stories. They are hooked. Like, I cannot make this up. They are triggered because I feel you represent truth, you have values, you know, these are people who actually want to be in your energy, but then they don't know how to come forward because they want to act as though they are in your vibration, in the same frequency as you. They want to act as though, you know, these are people who just want to downplay you. These are people who just want, you know, when you say, they say people from your past, people whom you grew up with, they will never celebrate you. These are the types of people right now. Yeah, these are people from your past, or people whom you grew up around, you know, or whatever. How take it however it resonates. But then these are people who are feeding off of your creativity. You uplift them. You empower these motherfuckers, you know. But then they just feel like they thrive out of confusion, out of chaos. They're busy telling messy stories on you. Yeah. Ooh, what's triggering people? Why is people triggered by the collective? You know, these people that are triggered by you, I feel these are people who may have lied on you. These are people who may have been triangulating you. They wanted you torn apart. You know, they wanted to ruin your reputation. They may have said that you are promiscuous. They may have said that you are a gold digger. They may have said a lot of things about you. You know, these are people whom uh, caught their lies are catching up with them. You know, now they are triggered by you right now. They are acting weird with you right now. It's because their lies are catching up with them. Nobody is believing them anymore because I feel your character is speaking for itself. However way you may be, you know, I feel everything is being exposed for what it is. The truth is coming to clarity. You know, people are awakening to the truth right now. Yeah, these are people who may have been karmic. You know, these are people who are so triggered because now their karmic ways are actually being exposed. You know, these are people who are being seen as low-key competing with you. Exactly. Yeah, you have people so triggered right now. You know, people who were more like uh triangulating you, wanting you to be torn apart. You know, people who are busy involving third parties in your situations. You know, yeah, whoever these people right now, I'm telling you, they are so triggered. They want to come back, kiss your ass. You know, they want to try come back and kiss your ass. Some they may even want to come bribe you. You know, want to, yeah, may make you less angry. You know, yeah, bribe you pretty much. Try to buy your love. Oh my God. Let's see. Why is it that people are so triggered by the collective right now? Why is it that people are so in their emotions and acting weird? Yeah, it's because they are so feeling bankrupt and they are haunted by their memories of you. You know, these are people who remembers how they were with you. You know, right now they don't know even how to say sorry, you know. Yeah, these are people who see you don't care about them. You are ignoring them. You are giving them the silent treatment. The silent treatment, you are avoiding them altogether. You are leaving them on read. These are people who are more like feeling bankrupt because it's more like they sacrificed you for nothing. Yeah, these are people who are realizing they sacrificed you for nothing. These are people who are more like jealous with you. You know, these are people who feel like yeah, they can't stop watching your post. These are people who are more like pretending they are fine. They're still not over it. I feel, yeah, these are people who want to know what's going on in your life right now. They are so triggered because they want to know what's going on in your life right now. And I feel it's more like you are running away. You are more like, nah, let me mind my own, mind yours as well. These are people who are so obsessed. Yeah, they want to repeat the pattern or repeat the cycle with you. Yeah, these are people who feel left out in the cold right now. Yeah, let's see some more on this. Why is it that people are so triggered by the collective right now? Why is it that people are in their emotions? You know, yeah, they're in their emotions because you don't want to associate with them and you are living rent free in their head. Yeah, these are people who like triggered because some of them they want a reunion with you. Yeah, these are people who weren't expecting for you to bring these big changes in your life. These are people who are more like and weren't expecting for you to transform. Yeah, these are people who are more like seeing you are way too guarded than they were actually expecting for you to. Yeah, these are people who want to repeat a toxic bond with you. They are so triggered because you don't want to be to work with them anymore. Yeah, these are people who feel like you're not coming back. You've burned the bridges. I feel this may be a masculine. This may be a masculine. Yeah, let's see some more on why is it that people are so triggered by the collective right now. Meaning you have a masculine who's so triggered by you not wanting to associate with them. This is a masculine that can't stop thinking about you. They have this love in the brain. Yeah. Why is it that people are so triggered by the collective? Yeah, they are triggered because you took your power back with the ace of once and the CEO. It's more like you claimed your power back. It's more like you are creative, you are very much bold. You are so much of a visionary. You have this natural leadership about you. You are way too determined to get in things. People are so triggered by that. You are way too confident as well. People are way too triggered by that. And they're feeling so left out in the cold. These are people who want to apologize. They want your forgiveness. Because these are people who see that your energy is so scrumptious, it's so good. Yeah, you love yourself. Yeah, these are people who are more like triggered, like literally triggered to be. I feel the way you're doing things, the way you're working on your expansion is so fucking triggering these people. Yeah, look at you, collective. They are so in their south node. They are so clingy. Yeah, these are people who are getting to realize they've been in the same at the same spot year in, year out. They've been at the same spot year in, year out, and you are busy growing. You have this urge to create, and they are so triggered about that. Oh my God. Let's see some more on why is it that people are so triggered by the collective right now? And lately, why is it that people are so in their emotions and acting weird with the collective? Is because they see you are ancestrally guided. People are so triggered by your connection with your spirit guides. People are so triggered by your abundant energy. Yeah, pretty much. People are so triggered that you've closed cycles, you are abundant, you are this limitless being. You know how to move forward, you know how to keep grounded. Yeah, these are people who didn't want you to be stable. They didn't want you to be stable. I feel these are people who may have wanted to feed off of your energy. Yeah, these people, they are busy talking messy. It's like you are not uplifting them. They are not stealing from your energy. These are people who are watching you getting uplifted, getting developed or empowered by your energy, by whatever they are watching from your creativity, whatever you are doing. I don't know what is it that you are doing, but then after that they come in and try to play it as if it's theirs. These are people who are more like wanting to play as though you may be copying them or something. These are people who are talking nonsense as though you're not inspiring or empowering them. They are so jealous. Yeah, they hate your spirit, your ancestral connection with your guides. These are people who see that you are so divinely guided. Yeah, they hate that. These are people who are seeing the chemistry that you have with your higher self, with your creativity, with who you are. Yeah, and they just can't stand it. They see the growth, busy telling messy stories. They want to be part of your growth. They literally want to be part of your growth. Just that they don't know how do you do it. They don't know, they don't know the details, and it's actually triggering these people. Yeah, let's see some more on why is it people are in their emotions about collective. Why is it people are acting weird with the collective? Yeah, because they are feeling so bankrupt. They are feeling so misaligned, and they are being haunted by their memories, the flashbacks, the side effects. They get to realize how much they've been choosing wrong, how much they've been neglecting themselves, how much they haven't been internal when going, how much they actually neglect going within. These are people who are now realizing how much you are of structure. You have a solid foundation. Something has formed. Them, they've been more focused on mediocre. They may have been more focused on external forces. You may have been focusing on the internal, focusing on your self-worth. And now it's more like you are somebody of structure. These are people who are very much triggered by that. They can see you are not easily tempted. Yeah, these are people who see that you cannot be easily uh, bullied or made feeling uncomfortable. Yeah, these are people who may be feeling like you've actually bruised their egos. They are very much scared of you. You are more like a mirror to these people. Yeah, they are more like triggered because of such. It's more like you make them face themselves. Yeah, you make them go within. And they are used to being external. Yeah, these are people who are so haunted by this new beginning of yours. Yeah, they are so haunted by your new beginning. They are so haunted by the fact that you love yourself. You chose yourself. These are people who may have wanted you to be bitter. Be feel like you are left out in the cold because you are not part of the external group. You are not fitting in. You are not. They wanted you to feel like you are left out by them not including you in their whatever. They thought that maybe they were actually breaking you. They wanted you to be bitter, but now it's more like they can see you are very much uh, having this new beginning. Is more like you've refreshed. Instead, you've refreshed. Yeah, these are people who are more like feeling like you're too closed off now. Yeah, right now they feel like you're too closed off even for their toxicity. You can no longer repeat the patterns, you know. Yeah, let's see what I feel most of them, some of them may be masculines. Yeah, let's see some more on this. Why is it that people are so triggered by the collective? Why is it that people are so triggered by the collective? Why are they in their emotions? Yeah, because you are not longing for them. You more like they are grieving the separation. Yeah, I feel these people who actually torn you apart, these people who actually triangulated and projected on you, these people who are more like tainted your reputation. They may have smeared your name, ruined your name. Yeah, they may have backstabbed you. Yeah, but then these are people who are not triggered because they are longing to be in your energy. Yeah, that's what's triggering them right now. Yeah, it's because they spoke way too much. They were bold and arrogant about that, and now it's more like they spoke way too early, because they see you are being celebrated, and they now will see you as a blessing, as a gift. They see you exude this abundant energy about you. Yeah, they are longing to be in your energy. These are people whom you may have been in having contracts with with these people. Maybe it may have been your family, maybe it may have been people in your career, maybe it may have been people whom you were in commitments with. Yeah, these are people who may have, smeared your name. They ruined your reputation. They lied on your name with others. These are people who are projecting their insecurities on you. Yeah, right now these people are so longing to be in your energy. Yeah, they are seeing you harvesting. It's more like things are reaching momentum. These are people who feel like twin flames reversed. You no longer care to come in, to come back. They are triggered by that. Yeah, these are people who feel like the flame has turned. Yeah, you are now cold towards them. Yeah, these are people who sees you, you've renewed yourself. You now have this spark for life. You now have this charisma. You now have this focus, this drive. It's more like you've changed. Yeah, exactly. You now have more courage. Yeah, these are people who see that you are not scared to face yourself. You're not scared to be, you know to be you. Yeah, pretty much. These are people who see you as somebody who knows how to create opportunities for themselves. You have so much freedom. You are way too motivated and positive with life. Yeah, let's see some more on this. um Why is it that people are so triggered by the collective lately? Why is it that people are so triggered and in their emotions about the collective lately? People be acting weird. Why is it? Let's see with this review. Somebody who wants to come back and they feel like you no longer want to associate with them. This is somebody who's more like can't stop thinking about you because whoever this is, yeah, they are way too fixated on you. Yeah, they are so triggered because they see you becoming victorious. They are so fixated, they are so triggered because they are seeing you becoming, being defensive. You being defensive of your territory. Yeah, they are so triggered because they feel like they want to come in and bring in an apology. Yeah, they want a reunion. Why is it that people are so triggered and in their emotions about the collective right now? Why is it? With this, with you taking your power, with you owning your power, with you having the urge to create, with them not knowing your business, it's actually triggering way too much because you are way too protective. You are way too protective. And you are so shining. Yeah, it's more like you are so uplifting. You are very much at peace. You've healed yourself a lot. You've healed and you are healing others. That's why they are so triggered. They want to know. They are cloud hungry. These are people who can make shit up for drama. These are people who love attention. Yeah, right now they are so triggered because of your defense. Yeah. Why is it that people are so triggered by the collective right now? They are so triggered because they can't copy or come siphon from your energy. They are so triggered because they have outdated information on you. They are so triggered because they are see you are spiritually guided and you are passionate about whatever it is that you are doing. They are so triggered because they see you are a magician. Yeah, that's why they are so acting weird with you. Yeah, that's why they are so in their emotions with you lately. They are so in their emotions because they see you are this creator, you are this manifester. Oh my God, they just can't stand it. You brought in unexpected changes. You've brought in, this tower moment they weren't expecting. These are people who may have downplayed you. These may be people who may have looked low on you. Yeah, these are people who are talking. Yeah, it's more like pages. They talk with no facts. Yeah, let's see some more on this. Why is it that people are so triggered by the collective right now? Why is it that they are in their emotions? Yeah, they are in their emotions because they feel like they are so bankrupt. They are not on your level. Your frequency, your discipline, your boundaries. How clear you are, so clear with your communication. You have this clear mindset. I feel they are so triggered by that because they may have downplayed you. They may have wanted to play in your face. These are people who are more like wanting to create trauma for you. You know, these are people who may have wanted you to not believe in yourself. These are people who are like too much, you know. Yeah, they are so triggered because they can't be with themselves. They don't even know how to change themselves. They are so triggered because you have this new beginning, you know. And I feel you are more like planting seeds of potential. They are so triggered by that, you know. They are so triggered that you are more like youthful, you know. You have this innocence about you, you have this purity about you. They are so triggered by that, you know, on how you handle your responsibilities effortlessly, even if it's more like extra burdens, but then you handle things with ease, you know. Yeah, they are so triggered by that, you know. You know how to move to calmer waters. You know how to move to calmer waters and create emotional fulfillment for yourself. You know, people are so in the emotions because of that. They are so in the emotions because of that. They are so acting weird because of that. Like literally. Let's see one more. Meaning your happiness, your stability is a trigger, your creativity, fact that you are busy winning is a trigger. Yeah, pretty much. Let's see why is it that people are so triggered by the collective lately. You know, they are triggered because they know what they've said. They remember how far they went out of their way to ruin your reputations. You know, these are people who are more like they don't know how to act. You know, they may have tried to impress others with your name. You know, these are people who may have contributed in ruining your name, you know. Yeah, these are people who may have said that you are promiscuous. They may have said this that and that, you know. Yeah, these are people who went out of their way when it comes to, yeah, speaking ill on you. Right now they feel you are cold, you know, because I feel they can no longer come into your energy, and they are so longing to come into your energy. Yeah, they are very much triggered because they are seeing you are moving to calmer waters, like literally. You know, you are being spiritually guided to calmer waters. You know, your spirit guides are actually, yeah, pushing you forward. These are people who are more like, they are seeing you moving with the flow. They want to propose something for you. You know, they may also be watching you doing things effortlessly. You know, these are people who may also want to bring in, yeah, apologies, some type of apologies. I don't know, but anyway, you know what's up with these apologies. You know what's up with these apologies. Anyway, let's leave it here. That's what triggers people about you lately.